Have you ever base jumped? The fatality rate of base jumping is 1 in 2,500. How many of you are prepared to take those odds and jump? If you launch a startup, the failure rate for a startup is about 90%. So it becomes 2,250 out of 2,500 chances you'll die as a startup. And so you gotta have this crazy mindset to do something when you know that you have a 90% chance of failure. And so you gotta have a few screws loose, especially because what we're trying to do, number one, it's not new, and you're going against big giants. So how does a tiny startup in Mid-Valley take on the big giant? When you try to take on a giant and you compete on the giant's rules of the game, you will get crushed. We focus a lot of our engineering expertise on how do you make it stream at sub 1 megabit per second 3G mobile connections without buffering. And that's where we've spent a lot of time on creating a different technology. And even if we solve that, we know, for example, consumers in emerging markets, they're not going to stream movie after movie on their mobile phone connection because it eats up a lot of data. So we then spent a lot of our engineering effort creating the ability to download and watch your shows offline, something that the US guys haven't done yet. But the consumer we're more interested in is the aspirational customer who wants content but is very, he doesn't have a big broadband connection. He has only his 3G mobile phone. He or she has limited data packages. And so that's kind of how we think differently about the customer that we're serving. We know the model that the Silicon Valley guys does, which is if you want to subscribe, you need a credit card. And so how do you make it more convenient for people to pay for iflix? Well, we said, most people don't have credit cards, but virtually everybody has a prepaid or a postpaid phone line. So why not use that as the billing mechanism? Malaysians, by the way, are crazy about YouTube. Malaysians watch on average 80 minutes a day of YouTube, almost double the world average. The average iflix consumer watches 115 minutes a day in Malaysia, so a lot more than YouTube. So once you get hooked onto it, it's really starting to get traction. And so that's kind of how we've had to pivot the model, go deeper with our telco partners, and form partnerships with all of these telcos. So as we enter new countries, we form these telco relationships and create a service that we think will get all the new middle-class emerging markets consumers excited about video content because now it's much more accessible. I'm one of those guys, I've never had a plan. I've never had a dream of, I want to do something. And actually that's come to become my philosophy in life. I think having big long-term plans is dangerous because, when you start to have a plan, this is what I want to do, you tunnel vision. You miss out on all the other weird things that are happening on the side. And the world that we live in today is moving so fast, right? Technology is changing. And if you're not open to new opportunities, you might miss out on things. So for me, I've really been driven by interesting challenges to take on something and really try to make a difference. When people said doing a long-haul, low-cost airline was impossible, that's when I come in, because I love it when someone says it's impossible. When someone says to take on big Silicon Valley video-on-demand giant, a big Malaysian pay TV giant, impossible. Everyone who's done it has failed. That's what gets me excited. So it's that challenge of doing that. It's the challenge of putting a team together and making things happen.